Hey folks, today I'm going to talk about deep tech from the startup's point of view instead of the investor point of view. Large enterprises are usually quite important to deep tech startups. They're either your customers, they may eventually be your exit target. So when I talk about working with enterprises, I'm speaking quite generally, since a corporation might be a partner, it might be a customer, it might be an investor, or it could be acquirer of your startup, or some combination of these things in your journey of working with a corporation. And I'm going to start with just laying out who the typical stakeholders are in these corporations. All right, let's talk about some of the key organizations that you may be working with when you're working with a corporation or an enterprise. Now, often the first entry point is the innovation team, and especially at a large company, if they have one of these, their job is to engage with the outside world, generally. They scout for startups to work with, they support those startups, they often work with the universities and other R&D organizations. They will often work with other companies in open innovation challenges. So their job really is to help the company learn and engage with things that are maybe adjacent to what the company does. The innovation team often doesn't have a lot of authority to get things done in the business. But they can be good coaches and they can be good connectors to either people or projects or capital. So think of them that way. I have great relationships with people in innovation teams, but I kind of know what their limits are. The R&D team's a little different. They usually have some association with the innovation team, but R&D is all about research and development for that company's products or services. And depending on the company you're working with, that R&D team could be complementary to your technology. And we're talking about deep tech here, right? So we're talking about startups with technologies that could be complementary or could actually compete with what these R&D people are doing. And if you think that there may be some overlap, then be careful. They in worst case scenario could steal your idea. That's not very common. There's not a lot of incentives for corporations to do that. But more likely, there can be all kinds of conflicts that created and a lot of friction that if you can avoid it, may be a good idea. But it really depends on the scenario. And then operations would be broadly is if your technology is successful in a company, where would it be put to use? In the production line, in their as an ingredient or material for their end product. And if so, the stakeholders in operations are probably going to be quite risk averse, right? Because their jobs are on the line, quality matters. So timing may be an issue. You may not be ready for them yet. You may be ready to engage with innovation or R&D, but not yet with operations. And hopefully the innovation team can help guide you on that timing. I'm going to talk a little bit more in the video about timing as well. So now let's change gears to the financial side of things. And corporate venture capital, if the organization has one of these, they usually have some combination of strategic and financial goals in mind. They have dedicated some people that are usually salaried employees and not paid like VCs are on the success of the investments. They're usually salaried employees, and their job is often to invest in things that are synergistic with the core business, preferably not overlapping with the core business, but they could be betting on things that could be the future of the company, but they don't have the capability internally, and they may be able to make good financial bets and picks in startups because they have the resources of the company to evaluate them to see if these are good ideas and good technologies or not. Corporate VC are usually quite good to work with. They may not be interested in investing in you, may be able to help you in other ways. They may not be interested in investing in you because you're not ready for them. Once again, corporate VC likes to wait a little bit in many cases because they may be limited in resources. They can only do so many deals. Often the paperwork involved in doing those deals at a corporation is a lot more burdensome than a normal VC. If you got to get the CFO and a couple other people to sign every deal, and you got to put it through a board meeting, you can imagine how that could slow things down, and they would want to just do Later stage, yeah, growth stage deals. That's a question you should ask the corporate VC. They are more than willing to share with you what stage they typically invest and how they engage. They may not be interested in investing, but they will, in most cases, give you advice and make connections, even if you're not a good fit at that time for investment. The other thing about corporate VC, they can often be a funnel into acquisition for the company. They can make some bets early, and with those bets, have the seat at the table to maybe acquire a startup once they're ready. And that's usually the job of corporate development. Corporate development in many cases really means mergers and acquisitions, but corp dev people will often work on some large strategic deals, joint ventures, things like that with other companies. But in the context of if you're ever talking to corp dev as a startup, most likely you're talking in the context of being acquired. And so imagine the timing. You don't want to be acquired when you're just two people and your valuation is so low that you don't feel you're ready. But know that that's their role, and the conversation will be in that context. Many companies have corporate development, but don't have corporate VC. And corp dev may be just there to kind of learn and see what's in the market so that when it's time to make an acquisition, they're knowledgeable. And then procurement. Procurement is, you want to be their friends if you want to sell into that company. Procurement will know the steps it takes to become a supplier into the company. Often not easy for many companies to be on the approved supplier list. And they also know all of the paperwork involved in the non-disclosures and what insurance requirements you may need and all these kinds of things. And it's a necessary evil. And it's hard to really be their friends, but you need to be at least friendly with the procurement people if you want to sell into the company. So coming up in the next video, I'll be talking about some differences in dealing with small enterprises who might have flatter organizational structures and can potentially make decisions more easily, versus large enterprises such as multinationals who have lots of resources but can often be quite frustrating to work with. I'll also show you 2 hacks that help you think about how to get traction with them both. Stay tuned.